In the latest chapters, we witness an intense series of events. Arcanist and the Siren battle plague birds, with Siren's song drawing in allies to ensure their victory. As they head to Thronehold, Volke and Eviana's bond deepens while tensions rise with Queen Ladislava's hesitant alliance. Volke's diplomacy secures vital support, but danger looms as decay dust spreads through the castle. A covert mission into Thronehold brings Volke's leadership and self-doubt clashing. The Justice District unveils espionage and deception as Callisto's hunt for the Sky Titan ramps up to a whirlwind of strategy, battle, and personal growth.
Welcome back to the Frith Guild podcast. I'm your host, Eric.
And I'm co-host, Scott.
And today we'll be going over chapters 36 through 40 of Warlord Arcanist. And before we get into that, we always like to appreciate everybody that likes, shares, subscribes, comments, all that good stuff, watches, and even listens to us anyways. Also want to remind everybody that the link for the Frith Chronicles Wiki link is in the description down below, along with the Capital Station Discord server. And I'm going to be putting the Discord server for ARC reviewers as well. They basically people that are indie authors that are looking for ARC readers, any genre you could think of. If you're a writer or reader, they do offer quite a lot of help in there as well for those. So something I recently joined and I'm working on as well. So do also want to mention that Demon Card Enforcer 3 is being released on February the 18th. So that'll be just about a week from today from this being published. So for those that absolutely love the Demon Card Enforcer series, we'll be getting that out here very shortly. And with that, we'll get into chapter 36, A Knight's Crest. I like Volke's decision on going with rings over guild pendants because we know how everybody treats their guild pendants.
It's a lot harder to throw away.
Right. And you know, I would totally be that fancy person that puts it on my pinky. And at this point, we find out that Delgis's mother and sister are there, so we're going to go and meet Cinna in the wee hours of the morning. And Arcanist is just kind of like soaking in the reverence and adoration from everybody because he's literally just out there, like, just there. And anytime he moves, even just to like shift, they're all like, oh my god, oh. Like, go ahead and stroke my ego just a little bit more. Yep, thanks. Appreciate it. We go and meet Ketsa and Cinna Venrover. Ketsa is Adelgis's mother. She's definitely the same person we met back in Elios, way back in Coliseum Arcanist. Fortunately, Cinna is the one that answers the door here, and he starts to talk to Adelgis. She's super happy to see him. And for some reason, I get Ketsa as a feeling of a very Aunt Petunia-like character. And
got that vibe.
Until she really realizes who Volke is. You know, she's got her nose up in the air and like, who the hell are you? Like, what kind of crap did I step in kind of person? And then she finds out that Volke's the Warlord Arcanist, and she's like, oh, you know, sorry. It is also really upset that Delgis did not choose to help his father versus going to the Frith Guild, which we all know. I mean, Delgis did quite a lot for his father already. He bred an abyssal leech. That's a pretty significant thing.
And he's also, I guess she hates the Frith Guild, but he's also like sidekick to the Warlord Arcanist. Like, he's done pretty well for himself.
Shoot, I mean, would he have been as close to the Soul Forge as he was to the Warlord? And Volke is staying there with his reunion of Adelgis and his sister and his mother. And we get interrupted as the Knights Draconic arrive to talk to Volke. And Volke's kind of like, I don't want to talk to anybody else tonight. I haven't slept at all. I've been tried to be assassinated, like this, that, and the other. He just kind of has this mini meltdown. And Adelgis is like, no, you don't understand. Like, they need to talk to you. Like, this is a life or death kind of thing. Please let them. We find out that two Sovereign Dragon Arcanists are fighting over a Thronehold, and we find out that one is in league with the Second Ascension, so it's kind of an important conversation he needs to have.
That brings us to chapter 37, Power Struggle in the Argo Empire. So we also find out that Thiessen and Quisto are heading to Thronehold, so therefore we must also head to Thronehold. Easy decision there. They know where the Soul Forge is going to be, so they need to go counteract that. We do get kind of a quick description of the Sovereign Dragon Arcanist. So Queen Ladislava is good, King Cardozo is bad, Yeah, that's about all you need to know. They don't really get into much else besides that. As we are making our way, we start our journey, and there's this cool discovery that Terracotta doesn't actually destroy everything when he moves, which would be awful. But the ground kind of just shifts out of his way and then nicely shifts back together. So when he gets done with it, you can't even tell that he, like a giant snake, went through everything. And it also lets him move through like forests and other things he probably shouldn't be able to move through.
Do you imagine watching that as an like bystander, not having any context of what's going on?
No, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of like farmers who, one, didn't know the world serpent was a thing, so they're just like in awe of this creature, and then see the ground just reforming behind it, completely baffled.
Like, you just went through my barrier, and then it just goes back together. You're like, do I get mad? Do I?
I don't know what to do. I don't know how to feel right now. We also find out that Karna is going to be acting as fake Volke while they go off to the underwater castle, and this just makes sure that nobody really knows that they're gone. They can have their nice little side excursion. And we also have Santonio, who is the Trash Dragon Arcanist, and he's going to be joining them on their way to the lake. He's the one that knows where it is and has his Relic Keeper magic to be able to help identify what is there.
With that, we jump into chapter 38, heading to Crystal Lake. Jose does give Volke the pouch with the Knight's Rings. We find out that it was imbuing the first one we gave to Fane, and we announce this to everybody around that he's getting the first one. He does this in like a semi-public area where there's a lot of traffic going on because everybody's moving to Thronehold. And of course, Odeon hears this and just comes like waltzing up, like, "Where's my ring?" And
gotta insert himself, you know? He's gotta be second place.
I imagine that Odeon was probably about to throw a temper tantrum because of the fact that he didn't get the first ring and he was the first one to swear fealty.
Yeah, he was ready to fight Fane, I'm sure.
And Volke is actually fairly hurt from imbuing these gifts, even though he's only doing 1 or 2 star shards per. And he does 2 of them back to back, which I imagine takes quite a lot out of him. But again, it's still, I feel like it's a lot more than what it should have been, given his ability to imbue with Luther's magic earlier. Volke proposes everything to Eventide about going to Crystal Lake and taking a quick gander, and we find out that it's just over the hill on the other side, so it's actually not even like really out of the way. And she agrees with it, but basically makes Volke take a powerhouse of people with him to the lake to search this place. And like, honestly, like, this is straight up the A-team going to the lake just because we want to make sure he doesn't get hurt or anything. As Volke is walking, he happens to see Alexei the Griffin Cub and tries to kind of talk to him, and he's like almost dying because of how adorable the cub is.
Sounds pretty cute too. Like,
sticks his finger in the cage and he bites or scratches it. Like, you kind of did that to yourself, but I can understand the
temptation.
Yeah, exactly. He let the intrusive thoughts win.
He did.
Addie happens to be walking on the other side of the cage, and she starts to talk to him, and then realizes that she cannot talk to him because she has to continue to study. And at this point, Volke kind of like asks Alexei kind of like, what do you remember about being a griffin? Where were you born? Where were you? All these other questions that a griffin cub should be able to answer. And Alexei just thought that he was just a different kind of manticore because that's all he knew was Hellion, so he just thought he was a manticore.
Yeah, no real memory of childbirth, of any sort of childhood.
Right, no idea where he would have lived, which Eyrie he would have lived on, if he had siblings, like any of that. And he kind of gives the same answer, like, well, he passed my trial at work. It's really, really odd thing to say, again.
It feels very technically the trial of worth was passed.
Right. Now, every time that we get this description of Eviana with Lashel as they're merged, all I think about is Dark Brotherhood from Skyrim, and just the straight black leather armor that they wear, and just trying not to be seen. And I absolutely love this image that she makes of it. And with everybody formed and ready to go, we all pile on to Terracotta to take off towards the Crystal Lake.
Which brings us to Chapter 39, Castle Under the Water. They stop to make camp. Zeltfree, of course, breaks out the drinks. He's getting everyone drunk, and when they ask about it, he says it's a special night. And they're like, what's special night about it? And he goes, well, we don't have to deal with Callisto.
And Volke even takes a drink.
Oh, he's getting a little more adventurous. More intrusive thoughts are winning.
He's kissing. He's having drinks. What's next, Volke? What's next?
He's really venturing out. San Antonio knows that the ring links the wearer to the World Serpent life force, so he's given some little trash dragon magic going on. And as he's going around and investigating this, we find out that he doesn't know anybody's name and doesn't really intend to learn anyone's name.
Yes, Phoenix Arcanist.
Why would I even bother? It makes no difference. I appreciate his realistic approach to, like, I'm not going to deal with you after 2 days. So we do get another dream Marcus memory. So this one is really of Marcus and Callisto having a discussion, and Callisto is very concerned with being immune to kind of mind controlling effects. So not really sure what to make of that, but seems important. And finally they reach the lake, which turns out to pretty much be a beautiful graveyard with World Serpent energy just radiating out everywhere.
And in Chapter 40, the first World Serpent Arcanist, everything's described as being like completely charred next to the lake. And Volke realizes that he needs to go find the castle on his own. Zaxxas is really upset that Volke can breathe underwater. Like,
dude, you're firefighter. Well, you're not going in the water anyway. You can't use your powers.
Yes, Volke gets all the fun powers because he's a god Arcanist, okay? Just accept it. So Volke goes down there and enters the castle. He ends up using his magma to light the way, and then he uses his I Am Groot powers to map out the castle, to basically make a map for himself. And he has to traverse across skeletons to find the door that he needs to enter. And I'm very curious about who it could have been, since, like, one, it was extremely brutal of, like, the way that he was describing the scene of the skeleton. Like, this was definitely a battle that was fought. And two, how did they get into said castle? Because we know that the gargoyles couldn't get in. We know that any other of the creatures that could manipulate stone could not have gotten it. We finally meet Louis, the first World Serpent Arcanist, and he is waiting for Volke in the final chamber. And I completely get a Viking vibe from him. I picture him with the full-on beard, the braids going back, shield and an axe in hand.
A very manly man.
Very. And Louis had explained that he made this to give Volke a leg up so they didn't have to figure out everything for himself. And we find out the first turning of age was when the star shards were falling. And again, this is why Louis was called the Warlord, because of his strategy and planning and all this other stuff. So he's already winning for Volke on the second round. So Volke has some high expectations here of what he needs to be doing when it comes to the second World Arcanist. Louis explains that the Sons of Ballastar ended up being the Fenris Wolf Arcanist, and that's how we get our Children of Louis and Children of Ballastar. Basically, anybody that was family or related to the god Arcanist were protected and never had to worry about the star shards, or at that point the stars falling from the sky and impacting on people. So this is probably why everybody's considered either a son of or a child of Louis or child of Ballastar.
I also got a very much like they got a round type of vibe. Like, it wasn't a little family of 4 that everyone came from.
There's a term used later on to describe the mortals married to Arcanist. I think it was Lisk, Lisque. That very much rings a bell in my mind.
A list, a couple mistresses, a wife and
our grandparents had them nightgowns, okay? We do find out that there are also 2 different types of auras that we can produce, an Armageddon aura and a Salvation aura. And again, we have 2 different augmentations, 2 different manipulations, 2 different evocations. Why is it going to be different? The auras. Because of these auras, it caused a lot of fighting within the god Arcanists themselves, and then a lot of infighting, and they figured out that they needed at least 5 god Arcanists choosing the same aura to be able to affect the whole world. This is something that that Luby mentioned, that even though the Salvation aura, because Volke does ask, why would we even bother with the Armageddon? Luby mentions that the Salvation aura had its own consequences to it, because all these stars falling down, they turn into star shards, and now we have mystic seekers that are going to hunt creatures basically into extinction or their body parts so they can make magic trinkets out of. So something to kind of keep in the back of our mind here. That ends chapter 40. Again, really not a whole lot of bestiary. We're getting the last few sections of recordings here, so we'll have some new things to talk about when we get closer to those. And with that, Scott, do you have anything else you'd like to add today for this episode?
No, you can feel it gearing up towards a little climactic battle, so I'm excited for it.
Yeah, we're right at that cusp of the last 50 pages.
It's chamois time.
Buckle on in for that roller coaster.
Yeah.
All right, and with that, we're going to end this week's episode. Thank you all for listening.